right, let's have a look.
Hey, Naomi, nice to have you.
All right, welcome everyone. We are just waiting for a little bit before we're gonna start, but for everyone who's watching us on YouTube, feel free to join us directly via the Zoom session. Oh, I also have to mute myself. You can join us via the link. It's in the live chat or in the description as well. So feel free to join us directly in the Zoom session. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. So we hope to see you there.
Same here. We're hoping for there to be some interaction. We'd love to have your input, your insights, what you're seeing. So if you want to join us on Zoom, come on in. Otherwise, YouTube is good too. But it makes it more fun for everyone if you're interacting directly.
Also, if you're worried about like your video, you're also very welcome to join us without actually having your camera or your audio on. We do encourage you, of course, to join us in the conversation. But yeah, if you prefer not to, then you're still welcome to join us in Zoom and not actually participate visually or with audio. You can just put any questions that you have or comments that you have in the chat.
Fully agree on that.
I'll give it a couple more minutes, see if anyone else wants to join us.
Sounds good, sounds good.
So for the people that are already here, we're going to start with a little presentation, and then afterwards there's also the room for some discussion.
Yeah, exactly. It's great to have you here. I'll be leading the presentation with Sylvie, who's called Thought for Food Live right now. But yeah, we're here together to present to you and to hopefully discuss with you, because we're looking for some insights as well, some inspiration, some ideas from you. So yeah, looking forward to getting this started.
Yeah, well, there's only like a couple of people, so we might give it just a couple more minutes just to see if there's anyone else joining. It's a very, I'm not sure exactly why. Lately, there's been people less joining. Maybe it's just because people are sick of
the Zoom.
Could be, but either way, otherwise we will make it like a small group discussion.
Sometimes, you know, it's quality over quantity. It's all good. I think as the weather is picking up as well, people are finding other ways to spend their time.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Let's give it one more minute, and otherwise we're gonna start.
Good.
And people can still join while they want to, like in the meantime. Go.
That sounds good. I mean,
hello.
Welcome, Jan, as well.
Just once again, for everyone that's joining us in the Zoom session that didn't actually hear from us yet, we're going to start in a few minutes or in a few seconds. And if you, just so you know, we're being live streamed to YouTube as well. If you do not want to be participating with your camera or audio, you can turn them off, but we of course encourage you to do that and join us in the discussion. But otherwise you can also put your questions or comments in the chat. Not a problem at all. So I think we're just going to start. If there's more people joining us in the meantime, we will just let them in. But for now, I want to welcome everyone at the Innovation Café. My name is Margot. I run the Innovation Café for the people that haven't been here before. We are a weekly networking event. Normally we are at Kazerne in Eindhoven, but due to lockdown, we're online at the moment. We hope to be back offline very soon. Well, we will stay online in any way, but we hope to be back on location very soon. But for now, we are doing everything via Zoom and YouTube. So today we have a presentation by Thought for Food, and they're going to talk a little bit about the Thought for Food Challenge and what their initiative is about. So without further ado, I want to give the word to Sylvie and Marie to tell a little bit about their organization and the project.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Margot. It's great to be here with you guys, and we do hope for this to be interactive for all of us to brainstorm together. I'll take you through a little bit of what Thought for Food does, who we are as well, introduce ourselves, and then we're going to talk about resilient restaurants, because of course the restaurant industry has changed a little bit, or has had to change a little bit over the last year and a half. And so we're going to discover what a future of restaurants could look like, and hopefully have your insights into what innovations in that space could be. So before I start sharing my screen, with that, I think I'll just introduce myself in this realm before I lose all your faces when I share my screen. But so my name is Marie. I am the Thought for Food Community Manager and Entrepreneurship Leader. And as such, I run a lot of our programs and I work with our global community, because Thought for Food is truly global. In our programs, we have more than 170 countries represented. And we look for innovators, startups, and people all around the world who want to create a sustainable food system. We kind of foster their ideas, connect them to each other, and run programs like the TFF Challenge, where we look for innovators everywhere. I'm joining you today from Croatia, so not quite Eindhoven, but I'm a digital nomad, and this is where I chose to be at the moment. And it's beautiful here. But it's also really nice to be there with you guys. I'm from Belgium originally, so right next door when you see it that way. Sylvie, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure, Marie. Hi, my name is Sylvie. I am based in the Netherlands, and I am the engagement kind of like point of contact of the community of Thought for Food. Super glad to be here with you and share our thoughts and make it a bit interactive. We are really curious about you and your thoughts around resilient restaurants and what is expected from the restaurants industry in the future.
Perfect. So maybe you'll discover this about me. I do like the Zoom emojis because it means that you can hear a little bit from the audience without actually all of you having to come on camera or anything like that. So maybe you can give us the little heart emoji. If you're in the Netherlands, it's almost orange, so let's go with that. And if you're anywhere else, you can pick any of the other emojis. It just gives us an idea of where we are. So if you want to indulge me on the little emoji front. Perfect. So if you are from elsewhere, also feel free to put that in the chat. We do want to, get to know each other in this session as well. We are going to spend an hour together. Also, great to have you. Let me share my screen. I think sometimes with Zoom, it does mean that I can't see the chat anymore. So Sylvie, I'll rely on you to prod me if there's anything there. Looks like most of us are in the Netherlands, which is great. Which means that our food system and our ideas of it tend to be similar, which will probably help in this discussion. Sometimes, the way we see things and the way restaurants, what it means to us is very different around the world. So it's nice to set that scene here. Right, so let me share my screen with you and just take you through that first part of the presentation. Again, for us, it is nicest if it's interactive, so we do have some questions in there, but at the end, we're hoping to spark a discussion too. So we are here from Thought for Food, like we just said, and I'll briefly introduce what we do, but basically it all comes back to this question. So what if we could empower young people everywhere with the mindset, skills, and connections they need to feed the world? That underlies what we do as a foundation. We're an NGO and we run various programs, various touch points, but most importantly, a community of people who want to move to a sustainable world, to a sustainable planet and future, and tackling that from the food and ag side. And so we have a number of touch points in that journey. but I won't go into all of them. But if you are interested, definitely reach out to us afterwards. But one way in which we run all of our programs is using an online platform called the TFF Digital Labs. The link for it is at the bottom of your page. And part of this and part of what really sparked what we do is that it doesn't come as a surprise to any of us, but of course, resources aren't allocated fairly around the world. And so that includes funding for startups, for entrepreneurs, but also knowledge around these topics. And so what we do is we've created this platform for people to join some of our programs, but also to have insights into different parts of the world, into food systems in different parts of the world, into content around how to be an entrepreneur, how to set up a company, how to create a prototype, how to use satellite imagery. Whatever topic you're into, we're trying to tackle that so that if you have an idea, you're in a better place to take it forward and become a sustainable entrepreneur, both in the financial, but also in the environmental sense. So that is kind of what underpins what we do. And at the moment, one of our biggest programs, and one of the programs that actually TFF started with is running, so that's the TFF Challenge 2021. And it is our call to action, and where we're looking for entrepreneurs all around the world to solve this big question of how will we feed 10 billion people on a hotter planet? And so the deadline for it is actually the 3rd of June. So there's another week to go to send us your application, to send us your idea, your prototype, your startup, your innovation, whatever it is, whatever stage you're at. We then connect you to mentors, to experts from the industry, from various places. But also we have an in-house acceleration and incubation program that we run to really take the ideas to the next level. And we make sure that that's personalized so that we fit your needs, because again, every venture will be different, every idea will be different, but also every local setup will be different. And it's important to us that we get this right to really have an impact. And the reason we're here today is first of all because Margot was kindly enough to have us, but also because we have a few areas of interest where we have these topical tracks where we're looking for innovations. And one of these is resilient restaurants. And so what we've done is we've partnered with Cargill, right? So global food company, and they've said, well, we really want to see innovation around restaurants. It's been an industry that's been incredibly shaken up. In COVID, it is innovating. It's been called, you know, like 2021 is the year of restaurants. We're seeing things changing. We're seeing innovation in that sector. And so Cargill has said, well, we're looking for the best innovators out there. And basically, so if you apply for the challenge, you can say, we also want to go in for that track and shape the future of the restaurant industry. For you, what's in it is mentorship, a direct foot in the door with Cargill, but also $5,000 just from winning this prize and just for putting in your pitch. So I would say it's a pretty sweet deal, but of course I would be saying that. But that is a little bit of what we do. But today we're here to discuss restaurants. And so I'd like you, once again, you did the emojis with me. I hope you'll do this thing with me too. But I'd like you to think back to the last time you were in a restaurant. And that might have been last week. That might have been almost a year ago. But just think about that experience. Think about who was with you at the table, who sat opposite, who sat next to you. What did you drink? What did it look like? What was the atmosphere like? What was the restaurant decorated with? What music was playing? How were the waiters? And finally, then, what was the food like? What did you eat? How was it served? What did it look like? How did it taste? And I'd actually love for you to just relive that memory and to highlight, you know, some of the things that were especially, you know, some of the things that resonated in what I said. It would be great if you could either put that in the chat or say it out loud as well about what really resonated, what stuck with you from that experience. Now, unfortunately, I can only see my shared screen. So Sylvie, can you help facilitate that, please?
Sure. I can also start because it's like interactive, right? So I can also start myself. I think My last time in a restaurant was inside a restaurant was last summer here in the Netherlands. So almost 5 months ago. And it was beautiful. I spent this time, amazing music, and it was Thai food. I do remember, I miss it so much. And outside, which is now the trend here in the Netherlands, was like a couple of weeks ago, which like we were allowed to go to the terraces again. So yeah, looking forward to maybe also hear from other people about this like restaurant, like the previous restaurant experiences you had.
Hi, Xavier. I think I'll share a little, otherwise it's so quiet. But yeah, for me, it was recently outside as well at the Kazerne. So yeah, really looking forward. Now we're allowed to go back to normal dining inside, hopefully pretty soon in the Netherlands. Because yeah, that atmosphere you can't really reproduce at home. It's not the same, I think. But yeah, really missing it. Yeah, so much. Yeah, I think everybody knows a little, has their own experiences, but must I say, yeah, something.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's something you can't reproduce, I think, anywhere else. A good restaurant, the feeling, the service, the atmosphere, the food, everything. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And Margot, by the way, she's also sharing with us last experience was last summer inside with amazing wine. It was nice to be out for multiple hours with friends. So absolutely what you just said, Javier. This unreplicable experience.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you for jumping in. And it is, right, so each of your answers actually didn't start with the food, right? Because restaurants are so much more. It's about that community feeling, that sociable time spent together, that time off the screen. Doesn't matter how great the screen is, like we're here together in this room. When you're off the screen, it is just different connecting with people. It's having that experience together as well of tasting food together, sitting at that table together, and the whole surrounding of it. So restaurants do hold a special place, I think, in everyone's heart, whether they go there often or not. We all have kind of special experiences around it. And so it is something that we definitely want to continue, and also something that's been a little bit shaken up. So let's dive into this a little bit more. So of course, there are some trends that we've seen, and these, I think we've all seen them accelerated last year. So, you know, we're seeing more and more tech being adopted in restaurants. And so that is on the operations side, right? So the part that also we don't see, so that is automation in how we might order food if we're running a restaurant, how we might track when we're selling what, to be able to have that data, so much more data coming in. And then it's also how we interact with our customers. So if we're using delivery, we're using technology to interact with them in ways that we didn't previously. And so you're seeing here, that's a little bit in the future, but the drones bringing food to you, that could be where technology is headed. But we're also seeing on the food side, we're seeing new foods coming up, being taken up, and people actually being quite open to trying new things, new flavor combinations, and also shifting their diets. So again, accelerated by COVID-19, we're seeing this shift towards healthier, nutritious diets, but also away from meat towards alternative proteins, plant-based, vegan foods, and really people, you know, even slow food. So people cooking more food at home again and kind of reconnecting to where that food is coming from. And now we're having that same, those same ideas being brought back to the restaurant, and people want to continue with that, but also have that in the restaurant setting. And then the final one that I'll highlight on here is obviously the safe dining experience. So that is around your food, but also how you feel. Pre-pandemic, I think in those memories, I think we all have one place where we remember sitting much too closely to other tables, where you had to kind of look behind you, tap someone on their shoulder to see if they could just shuffle back a little bit so that you could get out of your table. And now we've moved away, because we had to, from this. Restaurants have become a little bit more spacious because they had to. But so the question is, how does this continue and where does it go? And what does a restaurant look like end of 2021 or even in 2025? And so that's what we want to imagine with you a little bit. I'd love to know if your background is in this sector or not. So mine personally is not, but again, we've all been in a restaurant, we could all chime in. So please don't feel like you have to hold that back because you're not an expert. This is a safe space for us to have this discussion. And restaurants also typically face a lot of challenges, right? And so they were really hit hard in the pandemic, and I will stop speaking about the pandemic in a moment, don't worry. But there are labor shortages and inefficiencies. And so we're seeing that quite a bit, where actually some restaurants are now, really actively looking for people to join them because they're struggling to source labor for it. At the same time, obviously, restaurants depend a lot on profit and losses each month. It's really a cash-strapped business where changes can go up and down incredibly quickly and affect you a lot. At the same time, delivery and consumer pickup is coming in. It's a great trend. At the same time, it's causing restaurant owners to have to balance both, right? In places where you're able to also, again, have dining in. Restaurant owners suddenly have to balance this between having to produce food in-house. That is constant quality, of course, but at the same time, deal with the delivery options and putting that out the door at the same time as well. So they're kind of managing almost these two operations all at once, which is a challenge, of course, also an opportunity. All challenges are always both. We're seeing new hygiene safety protocol expectations. Of course, they have to be adhered to. But we're also seeing quite a few things that actually haven't changed so much, right? The restaurant industry hasn't changed as much as some other industries. There's not as much innovation happening as we've seen in other places. And so a lot of things are not that technified yet. So there is this massive room for improvement on anything from how you source staff, how as a willing staff member, how you find a restaurant to work in, to how you procure your food, to how you track what you're selling when, and to reducing waste, to reducing your plastic usage. There's so many ways that you can up-level what you're doing and bring in new technologies. And also it's really tough to get that feedback from the market though as a restaurant, right? So if someone comes in for a one-off and they leave again, you don't know if that was because they just wanted to try it out and it was great and they left and they're going to try out a different cuisine next week, or whether they had a really terrible time, they really didn't like the food and that's why they didn't come back. And so that is a struggle as a restaurant owner because you have to guess a little bit what your customers are doing. Of course, there are some clear signs if you get a full plate back, but there's that and there's trends as well, right? And so food trends, of course, you have to be on the lookout for them to keep up with them, and then you have to adapt your menu, which can also be a challenge because you have your niche, you have what you're doing, and suddenly you're finding that your really meat-heavy restaurant isn't drawing the same crowd anymore. And so you have to decide how and if you adapt and how you stay with those trends. So there are a lot of conflicting challenges here, a lot of things that are pulling you in different directions. And now all these challenges have been heightened. 2020 has been hard in a lot of places. So now there's this really nice opportunity to reinvent this sector. And so, of course, there's some trends that we're seeing. I think I mentioned a few, but if you want to put some in the chat that you've seen or that you think, oh yeah, at the end of 2021, this is what a restaurant will look like. Or even, this is what it might not look like. This is what we will never go back to. I'd love to see those. Again, feel free to unmute as well. These can be complete guesses as well on what you've seen in the restaurants and where you think restaurants are going. I'll give you some pictures as well. Yeah.
Mary, well, the attendees are thinking about this, like the trends that are coming in the restaurants industry. I just want to share something that Hans shared with us in the chat. And he mentioned, well, perhaps the focus might be a bit more on the customers joining the cooking, so bringing their own ingredients and presenting their own recipes and cooking with the help of a chef. Very interesting remark from Hans, so thank you for sharing. And yeah, in our side, Margot is like sharing with us, well, maybe smaller menus and more local and season-oriented dishes are also like part of these trends. But welcome everyone to join the discussion and kind of like see how everyone is forecasting the restaurants industry. Maybe not really in the future, Marie, but actually we already see some changes. So what are those trends that we see? Something also really, nice, surprise menu instead of many choices, Marie, also being mentioned in the chat. Surprise, it kind of like a surprise menu.
Yeah. I love all these options. You guys are already thinking outside the box. It's great. I would love to know, do you think, the eating out and the whole home delivery, is that going to stick around? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And I mean, everybody's guessing at this stage, right? No one knows what's going to look like. Of course, last year, all the delivery platforms had a massive boom. Loads of new ones came up as people were ordering new foods. And that was the only option of getting new foods, was to stay at home and order from it. Do you think that's going to stay around? No. Yeah, these are great ideas already. I will fill in this slide now as well. But if you have more brainwaves, feel free to put them in the chats. Again, unfortunately, I can't see it while I share my screen, but I've got Sylvie and I will look at them afterwards as well. So actually, these are trends that we're seeing, but that we're also kind of like thinking that they will come up. So at the moment, of course, and I mean, that is very much pandemic, but the chain restaurants have the upper hand, right? So they have large operations, they have a little bit more flexibility in whether things are working out or not, and they have the name behind them, right? So getting people to come back, getting people to recognize you is really important. And that brings in a whole host of other things, other trends. But we've seen it with people wanting healthy, nutritious food. I think also customer cooking, I think, like goes into that as well, because people want to know where their food is from, what's in their dish and how to prepare it. So I love that idea. Food safety and cleanliness, which is maybe also the downfall of the customers cooking. I think there is a model there, but I wonder how it can be executed. Digital ordering is also becoming commonplace. So, right, you go to your restaurant and you're ordering digitally there as well. So even if you're sitting at a table, we've seen that implemented a lot in the UK for sure at the moment. When you go to the pub, you order your beer using your phone, and it's still being brought over by a waiter, but still you do it that way. So we're seeing that actually is picking up more and more. And I think at least in Belgium, what we had a lot is these QR codes as well to get the menu from. So we're seeing kind of digital ordering and digital coming into that experience as well. And then ghost kitchens are really, really big, right? And so there is a huge question mark around whether they're going to stick around or not. So just to make sure we're all on the same page. So ghost kitchens are kitchens that don't actually have the front end, right? So they don't have a place for people to sit down and enjoy the food. They are either just a kitchen or they actually are shared spaces. Or even better, so not better, but another option is that there are restaurants that actually, if you look on your delivery app, there'll be several restaurants in the same location. But it actually turns out they're all the same. So what will happen is that a restaurant, instead of just having that one name, they might have 3 or 4 different ones to appeal to different audiences, right? We all know names bring up different things. And so they will register new entities, new restaurants, even though it's just the same place. And there's a really fun interaction there happening. And it shows the power of the delivery platforms as well, where actually delivery platforms like, say, Uber Eats, obviously they get a lot of data of what people want to eat. And so they'll see that if lots of people are looking for poke bowls, I hope they're a big thing where you are too, but if loads of people are looking for something and there's no restaurant with that in the name, they might approach you and say, hey, you're making this food. if only you had it in your name, you would come up top whenever someone searches for this. You'll turn around and say, well, sure. So what that restaurant does is create a new entity with this name in their restaurant name, so that when someone looks at that, you come up first. And so that is a really interesting play that restaurants now have, where they can diversify while staying the same. And that's where also digital advertising really comes in key, right? Because you need to find people, you need to bring people in, and on those platforms, on those online platforms, if you are the 20th pizza restaurant on the list, you're unlikely to be chosen. And so suddenly this branding, marketing coming in is something that is so much more important to elevate those restaurants and to bring them to the forefront so people go there. It's very much, all these trends are very much on the digital side, right? So we do see the trend on the consumer side, so slightly different. And so you already mentioned local, smaller, seasonal. That is something that is being driven by consumers, right? So that's what they want to see. They have gotten the sustainability hat on, they've gotten their local food hat on. They want to know where their food comes from. They want to be connected to it more. And so they are choosing restaurants that fit that bill. So that's actually in conflict with the chain restaurants, because often they are not that. Which brings us...
Mary, just before you continue, and Anna just shared with us something that she said, more and more restaurants will have the QR code to check the menu instead of distributing menus for each table. And they could probably give more and more attention to organic food, which is also something that we are saying now. It's just like this difference, like 5 years ago, we saw organic food becoming a thing in restaurants, and now we see it more and more being integrated in supermarkets, I mean, and now we see it more and more being integrated in restaurants. And Hans, he said, another way to change the scene is to offer menus with kind of like different type of staff. A group might be served in a rather imprint way and just learn about service. And so, for example, Hans says, I know about a restaurant in Switzerland where blind people serve and everything is in the dark. You'd really learn to use all your senses except of seeing. So definitely, Hans, and really, like, I love these comments because I love experimental restaurants. They are really my favorites. Another point from Hans is like, might not be the focus on technological innovation, but rather on vintage styles. So combining with special music evenings. So it's not only about food, right? It's like this experience that you are kind of like, it's coming alive in a restaurant. And yeah, and also, of course, like what you just said, Mary, delivery is becoming a thing now.
Perfect, thank you. And Hans, you've taken one of my examples from me. So great chat. I was gonna tell you about that restaurant which is completely pitch black, and it removes your sense of sight, and therefore all the other senses perk up. So great to hear that that's something you've already spotted. The one I was going to tell you about was in Berlin. I knew that they were in other places too, but there you go. So Switzerland and Berlin, nice. Well, going on from that, so we've heard obviously like experiential restaurants are a thing as well. From what you guys just said. So I think we've basically touched on a lot of these points here already, but if you have any other trends that you think come in from the consumer side, do feel free to tell us to put them in the chat. We'll see from there. See if I can, I've managed to now see the chat. That elevates my experience. Perfect, and welcome to whoever just joined. I think there was a new person. So welcome, we're talking about restaurants and what the future of them might look like. And right now we're actually talking about consumer trends in food and in what we want to do. And yeah, so things pause a little bit from my end. Sylvie, I trust you'll jump in if things freeze. I think it wasn't happy that I was looking at the chat.
No, it's just like your screen had like some problems, but now it's back. Okay, now we see it. So
sounds good. It sounds like it doesn't want me to look at the chat at the same time, but you've been doing great, so that's all good. Thank you for helping. So a lot of these we've already mentioned, but just to make sure we have the full picture. So consumer trends are obviously delivery, the takeaway. We've spoken about it, but also beverages come in, which is a fun one too, because, and these are also, I mean, these are still the cocktails, but we're also seeing this trend towards non-alcoholic beverages and cocktails to up-level that, and comes in with that health drive as well, where people want to be healthy, nutritious. They want to know what they're having, but they also want to have a good time. They want it to be experiential. They want to be able to take that beautiful picture, put it on Instagram, and talk about where they've been. So all of that comes in together. People want to know where their food is from, right? So food transparency. Doesn't mean that it has to be traceable all the way back, but they want to know if it's organic, if it's from a local farmer. That is knowledge that can definitely like up-level it, and that people might choose you over someone else. Sustainability at the forefront. We're seeing some unusual flavors coming in as well. So we're seeing a lot of these fusion restaurants, right, where different nationalities are fusing together to give you a great experience. Last night I went to a Bosnian Indian place that's called Taj Mahal, and then most of the menu is Bosnian. It was great. It worked really well. It was quite a surprise because after the name Taj Mahal, did not expect to end up half in Bosnia, but it was great. And so those things are coming up because again, it changes things a little bit. And umami is one of these flavors that more and more chefs have been playing with as well, and that we're seeing come into our food. Experiential ones. This is where I was going to tell you about that blind restaurant. It's great to hear that that already came up. So that restaurant in the dark, safe food, and our meal options moving towards vegetarian, vegan, alternative protein, and mental health cooking as well. So during the pandemic, we've had this new idea of what we eat affects how we are, and we want to continue that, but we also want to go to the restaurant. And so I think you can see that these trends are, some of them are in tune with what we said on the restaurant side. Some of them need to be brought into the concept, right? So as a restaurant owner, you need to keep these things in mind. And so that's why they're saying also 2021 might be the year for restaurants, because actually anybody starting now has these trends in mind, has these new technologies coming into restaurants, and can really like build up from there. But also restaurants who've managed to survive the really tough time that they've just had can come back with these innovations in mind and create this whole beautiful place to be in.
Absolutely. And just before we move into the solutions, Marie, Anna just shared with us, in Eindhoven, I noticed more and more Asian French fusion restaurants. I wonder what triggered this trend, but maybe this will become a new trend, as well as Brazilian sushi that is becoming very popular in Italy. I've never heard of Brazilian sushi before. This is a new thing for me, like opening my eyes. And I'm actually not sure if I am pronouncing the name correctly, Xavier or Javier. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, Xavier. Just a super important point, unusual locations for restaurants. There is also more demand for this in the hospitality business, and that's actually true. Like one of the examples of that is coming in the case study, one of the examples that we're gonna give, but like, yeah, restaurants in factories, restaurants in greenhouses, restaurants in, yeah, so definitely, I absolutely agree with these comments, yeah.
Have you seen there was restaurants open up in like unused airplanes now? I think it was in Japan or somewhere in Asia, but people were paying a lot of money to sit on a plane to eat, which pre-pandemic no one would have done. And it was still, right, it wasn't like beautifully remade interior of an airplane, then I'd be fully on board. It was the normal airplane, and people just really wanted to be on a plane.
Yeah, and on top of that, we see that they are more like big chains popping up there, and like, as you say, Xavier, is like, for example, French tacos in France, and yeah, so basically you definitely see like that local, like global and local part of the restaurant's supply chain. Also, Anna, tell us more attention to organic food, vegan and vegetarian. Nowadays, many people just like me are reducing the meat consumption, and I think this will spread worldwide in the next decade.
Fully on board with that.
Totally, yeah.
We're seeing that trend in most places, some not so much, but in most places we are seeing that trend away from meat or reducing meat consumption. So yeah, and that will have an effect on restaurants. The beauty with restaurants is that as consumers, with many of these big things in the world, we think, well, what am I gonna change? Like me doing something differently, is it really gonna have this impact? But in the restaurant industry, you really can, because they are, they're directly there. They directly are impacted on what you buy or not buy, if you buy or not. And so that's where you can really have an impact, and where you can have your voice heard in what trends you want to shape. So I think that makes it a great place to also say, no, you know what, I'm struggling with this menu. I only have one option, because it is about getting that feedback. We spoke earlier with some restaurant owners, and they said, well, it's really hard for us to get feedback. And actually, one of the solution areas, which is the next one, is how can we facilitate restaurants getting that feedback, hearing more about what works and what doesn't. I think since we've touched on a lot of the things that we could do, I might already show you some of the solution areas, because I'm keen to get chatting at the end, because I feel like there's some great people in the room. So ghost kitchens and virtual restaurants, we already touched on it. I think they are there to stay, and they're a way to diversify what we eat as well. And they're a way to make it easier to open a restaurant, right? If you're a chef, you only need to look after that, and you don't need to have the whole other part associated with it. That is the space, the setup, but also, of course, the staff. Delivery is here to stick around, I would say. Different trends saying different things. Well, I think everybody agrees it's here to stick. It's just how much so. So we'll see on that. And then there are lots of things to find talent. So this comes a little bit to the experiential stuff, but also, working in a restaurant might not be a full-time thing. So just like you have a gig economy, you can have that for restaurant workers, where restaurant owners can easily find restaurant workers for short amounts of time as well. So that is something that can be really great to have. Automation is coming in more and more, so these are repeatable tasks. So that can be procurement of your produce, but that can also be direct things in the kitchen. So if you're a pizza restaurant, you might automate the tomato sauce being put on the base. It means that every time you're going to have the exact same amount, you're not going to have a little drop that goes on the side that is wasted. So you're really being more efficient in that sense. Efficiency really comes to light in this sector as well. More and more AI and learning from the data, who does what when, who orders what where. And then the final one, which I think is really great, and I am a scientist, I think very much science and data, but I do love the other side that is more creative, more artistic, even if I feel a little bit lost in it. But there is a chance here to rethink restaurant design as well, right? So with restaurants bringing in or keeping that delivery side and the place for people to sit, there is a way that we could redesign spaces so that we could have both of these all in the same place without the Deliveroo drivers. I hope you have Deliveroo in the Netherlands, I think you do, but without those drivers coming in their motorbike uniform, picking up the food, walking past your table, right? If we create a new space, we could have them coming to a side door, and you in the restaurant itself are not kind of seeing them and not disturbed by them. They also not parking their motorbikes right in front of the door of the restaurant. So there are ways here of rethinking this, of bringing in this experiential thing as well. So you can have different corners and different styles, right? So people can choose whether they want to be in the blue or red corner. And that is as far as my imagination goes. But that's something we can discuss in a moment as well, depending which way your ideas go. Before we do that, I do want to throw out a quick case study to show you what these guys have done, which taps into a lot of what we've just spoken about. Before I do that, Sylvie, do I need to stop? Was there something in the chat?
Yeah, I think there's like super cool comment here from Hans, and he says, another way to find new ideas, approaches is to eliminate a usual thing from restaurants concept, mine, like cutlery, servants. And I think that, what happens is that we still want to run the restaurant. And one more idea is to like make people pay not for the food, but for the time that they are there. Oh, interesting. So again, a bigger focus to the experience of being in a restaurant. A Japanese popular restaurant started that and increased they turn over very much. The shorter you are there, the less you pay. Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of this Japanese restaurant before. Super interesting. And Naomi, she's also commenting on like there is a cafe that is like that, and it's called Cifer Blatt. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly, Mary. But super good idea. So paying for the time you spend in a restaurant instead for the food. What do you think about that? Oh, here they showed
it
the
makes me really
link.
sad, personally,
Yeah.
because I go to the restaurant to spend time with people. But happy to be disagreed with on this front. And I think the great thing is that I can sit back, that I can chat instead of having that stress of coming in saying, no, quick, eat faster.
Yeah.
But it is a way of rethinking it, which I enjoy that as a thought exercise. And yes.
Absolutely. And on another hand, I've seen like this trend of like using robots to serve food in restaurants. And it's actually like super efficient, and I understand all the benefits, but I just think like, I just want to see people. I want to socialize after these COVID times and just like really talk to the waitress or whatever. Margot also, she comments here, I feel that there is a lot to gain in reducing waste in restaurants or from restaurants, but it's a tricky thing. Especially here in the Netherlands due to health regulations. So also the role that policy is playing in this sector. And Hans, again, he tells us, thank you, Hans, for participating so much. We love it. In Eindhoven, there is a Mongolian restaurant where you pay for the time and then you can eat as much as you want.
Oh, okay. So then I say I'll stay for an hour. And then I know I can relax for that hour, and yeah, that's more. I'm more in tune with that one.
Clever, yeah. And Anna is telling us an idea could be on the more you order, the less you pay. This way, restaurants could reduce food waste. Interesting, very clever. Like, as you would say in Dutch, like omdenken, like you flip it around. And really clever observations. I love these insights, Marie.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. It's getting me thinking about it as well. Yeah, keep those ideas coming. So one thing I did mention, but of course, with food delivery, a lot of more packaging is being used as well. So we need solutions around that to ensure that that moves away from plastic, away from oil-based materials, and towards things that are at the very least recyclable, but ideally degradable. And yeah, so that we can look after everything better. So that is part of it, although Margot's point on food waste is a great one too. And I think so far the best solutions I've seen around that is the gathering of data so that you make sure that whatever you prepare and that you have in the house can be matched with the people coming. But of course, you always need to be ready. You can't prepare for all of it. So that is definitely a challenge, yeah. We can chat about that in a moment too. But before I do that.
Oh my God, I'm sorry to interrupt you so much, but actually this is so cool too, because it's like being one of like the biggest startups, all startup, I think, Too Good To Go. So to reduce waste, and there is a popular app, which we all know probably, and if not, it's good to check it out. Too Good To Go, where you can pick up the leftover food and just before the closing time. I've personally used it and I love it. So thank you for that comment, Xavier. And since COVID, many of the better restaurants had also joined the app, which is absolutely true. Good deals. So yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at this one. This is not a restaurant, so I'll say that up front. It's a food tech company, but what they've done is they have tapped into the sustainability, tapped into the health, tapped into the food trends. They've also tapped into the longevity, into the reduced packaging, and into the experiential dining, eating, and just all experience from start to finish. So I wanted to show you this, and you may have heard of them. So they are good food, and they are the future of meats. But what they've done is they've had the first chicken, a cell-based chicken that's been regulated ever. So they're based out of Singapore. And so Singapore, like the quote says, open the door to a world where one single cell can produce an unlimited amount of meat, right? So this is cell-based meat. So if, just to make sure, again, we're all on the same page, this is meat that isn't animal grown, but it is lab grown. It is at the end basically identical to what you would get from the animal, just means that there is no slaughter at all at any point. And this is the first company that has received a regulatory approval to bring it to the market. And at the moment, the way it started a few months ago was that you could have it in the restaurants in Singapore. Of course, at first it was invited guests only. Now you can put yourself on a waiting list. I don't know what you have to do to make it into the restaurant, but I'm pretty sure the waiting list is quite long. But now, just a few weeks ago, that you can also get it on delivery. So you can have it at home where you are. And they have really, for me, they have cracked this case of really making it about more than just the food item. And so what I like to do is to show you their website as well, because it starts there. It starts with looking into them. And hopefully this will work. Hopefully you will hear what I hear, and the screen sharing will work nicely. But go there. And so you'll already see it says loading the experience, which is not what websites often say, and it does take a moment because there's a lot to load. So we'll dive into the website. I want you to listen to it and to read along, right? We'll just stay on this for a moment, see what resonates, see if it resonates at all. But I think it's a good example. I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a moment. And Sylvie, please jump in if you don't hear the sound, because it's really important.
Sure. We hear it.
Good, but I don't see it. Leave you there. But that is the beginning of their website. That was chapter 1 of what happens in their website. And you instantly get to have that connection. You're in the rainforest, you get to see this magnificent bird. Of course, chapter 2 is it's going into the way we currently farm chicken in most places in the world. And it kind of tells the story of how that happened and where the future could go, which is, of course, where this company comes in. But I think you will have seen that it's a very different website to other food companies, and they go beyond this as well. So that's just what you see there. But then if you order food from them, so if you get the takeaway from them, it comes in this beautiful wooden box that you get to reuse. There's no plastic anywhere in sight. It is presented beautifully. Yes, it also comes with a price tag, but it is a brand new food item. But what I thought was really interesting as well, and so where again this experiential bit comes in, is that it actually now gets delivered with the Google like 360 glasses thing, right? You put your phone in, you look at it, and then you feel like you're in VR, right? You're completely taken into that environment, and it comes with a link to a video for you to watch before you dive into your food. So it again creates this big experience around your food experience that most places don't have. So it's one place where I think they've really created a story around their food item, and have really taken it to a whole new level. And I think, you know, it would be great if there are places where you go to and you have this whole experience around your food. Maybe you can see, you know, all the way to the farmer who grows your food, understand the journey your food took, how your chef made it and how it landed on your plates, and connect with that a little bit more, all in a fun, interactive, playful way. I think that'd be really great, and I would certainly be up for going to a restaurant like that, paying a little bit more for that experience as well. So that was one case study I really wanted to share with you. And then I think Sylvie has another one that was already mentioned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also wanted to bring this one to the table because it's in Eindhoven. And I think it's just like a very cool initiative from the two founders, Sabine, who is a chef, and Tim, an entrepreneur in the agri-food space. And this is a cool example, Marie and everyone here, because it's a space for health, innovation, and entertainment all together. It started as a food truck, actually, and now it's an inside restaurant. And it's actually located on old Campina dairy factory in Eindhoven. I don't know if any of the participants or the attendees know this restaurant. It's called Pot Kitchen. And yeah, like very interesting because they created their own urban farm within like inside the factory, and now they are they have that lettuce and herbs, and they are growing fish also. So they declared themselves like, we are the worst, we're the best example of like the first aquaponic farm restaurant with delivery service. And so it's really an example of course, they want to maintain their roots of coming from being a food truck, but also combining that with the experience of having a restaurant. And the menu is incredible. Like they have like these pure ingredients, fermented vegetables, and they claim also that 90% of their kitchen is made up of these ingredients that are being actually harvested inside the factory. So I absolutely recommend it. I don't know if any of you know it, but I do think it's a good example of, you know, bringing that experience of being within a factory framework also, and also combining it with like fresh farm to table menu, and don't really see if I would like to I also would like to share, like, by the way, Anna is like also commenting us. I was just thinking if anyone has been there, but no, not really. Okay, Anna is saying I didn't know it, but I'm gonna try for sure. And Margot neither, haven't been there, but it's actually a new restaurant. It's not at all. I just wanted to share it because it's also in Eindhoven, and I think it's a good example of like urban farm type of restaurant. Yeah, Marie, that was it. A good example also mentioned it here, maybe can be connected to this case studies, is like a natural eco-friendly wood cutlery, because like takeout boxes and straws, they should be adopted, of course, by restaurants worldwide. Super good remark from Anna there. Yeah.
There is finally, I think, 4th of July, but let's not quote me on the date. There's an EU regulation coming in that we're no longer allowed to use single-use plastics anywhere. So that gets rid of all the straws, of all the cutlery, like plastic cutlery and stuff. So I'm eagerly awaiting that date. I think a lot of places have already transitioned away from it, but certainly here in Croatia, where I've been now for almost 2 months, every drink comes with a plastic straw unless you say I don't want it. In which case, sometimes I still forget that you said you don't want it. So that is definitely something that will push things forward as well. But fully agree, any ingredients used should by now really not be plastic anymore, but we'll see. Perfect. So this is where, I mean, it was great already interacting. I really enjoyed that. There were great ideas already in the chat. I look forward to actually seeing the chat in a moment when I stop sharing my screen. But I'd love to hear a little bit about what you think the restaurant industry could look like, where it could go, what you think is completely crazy, or what you think could actually be great, what you would like to experience in a restaurant. And also, if you are an innovator, or if you know innovators in anything food and ag, but especially, you know, restaurants, since that's the topic of today, please do tell them about the Thought for Food Challenge. Send them our way. The deadline is the 3rd of June, so they have a week to go. But very happy for Sylvia and myself to connect with them directly and tell them more as well. So it'd be great if you could help us spread the word. And finally, I'd love to connect with you directly as well. So do feel free to find me on LinkedIn or social media, wherever, but also drop me an email if you're interested to find out more after today. But with that, yeah, let's stop sharing the screen, join you back in the room, because I feel like I've been removed by sharing my screen. And then, yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about what you were seeing. It's clear that I'm not in the Netherlands where you are, so maybe there are some examples locally that you're seeing that actually get you excited, because I've seen a lot of the things in the trend in the chats, although it seems like Hans has global recommendations as well on what he's seen.
Absolutely. And perhaps we can even, just to wrap up, we could share like what's that favorite restaurant that we've been, and like what's that for you, what could be actually, or what wish you to be your favorite restaurant if you are into sustainability, and you know, how do you see that, or you know, just as an open question too.
Tough question, no? But also, well, Margot, I'd love to hear how the Innovation Cafe is thinking about what's next, because I can imagine you've had a lot of these ideas and thoughts as well.
What do you mean exactly, in Kazerne specifically, or?
Yeah.
Just to specify for the people that don't know this, Innovation Cafe is a initiative by Kazerne, which is a location in Eindhoven where we have a restaurant combined with a design exhibition, but also in-depth program. So the Innovation Cafe is part of that. So that's why particularly Marie is asking about Innovation Cafe and our initiatives. I mean, at Kazerne, I mean, we are, I think we're already having like a little bit of that experience with, so that's extra experience. I mean, there's a couple of people here that have been at our location, and I think we're proud of the fact that we actually add a little bit extra to the experience, and it also like it elevates one another really. So people that come in for exhibition get introduced to the food, and it elevates the food experience, but also the food elevates the design experience, you know, so that it really interacts. And I think these types of things become more important. Like it's not, and in general, it's not just about the food, you know, like, I mean, you can have amazing food, but if the atmosphere or the staff is horrible, then you're never going to come back. So I really think, and that's also what we're really focusing on, to really make that experience more important for people. So really, I mean, we are focusing on design, for example, but I can imagine other restaurants have another focus, and we're really trying to focus on educating our team to really be able to give that, you know, that extra experience, and have guests really be involved in it, like be I want to say drowned, but it's a negative word, but like drowned into the experience, you know, like really to get that. Yeah, immerse. Thank you.
Sounds great. Well, when I finally get to meet Sylvie in person, we are colleagues we've never met, we'll come visit.
That's great. Can't
Absolutely.
Wait. and join whatever workshop will be on that week as well. Right.
Also glad to hear we are the favorite of Hans.
Again, sounds like he's seen some others as well, so that's perfect. I think whatever comes with an experience, I'm keen to try. It's probably a one-off. It's probably which way you want to go. It's probably a one-off where you pay a bit more, but that would certainly draw me in. Anything that goes beyond just the food. Good. So I'm curious, Hans, if you are in this industry or are you just a happy foodie and perhaps on the sustainability side a little bit?
No, I'm not in the food industry, but everybody is basically, because we can't live without food. I'm just enjoying my life with my wife, and we visit different restaurants, and we are vegetarians. And I think Kazerne is always a great hit because it's the atmosphere. The chefs are great. They have two different kitchens, and they are both very good. And in Eindhoven you have Bij Albrecht, which is a very particular specialized in doing with very little food very great things, and that's what we like to. And for the rest, I cook myself every day.
That sounds good. Like the smaller menu. So Sylvie, since you were saying like a restaurant, that really stuck in my mind. And this is years ago when I went to visit my cousin in Freiburg in Germany, and very short periods of the year, like when the harvest is happening, so it was late summer, you get to go on farms, like 2 farms who basically open up their living room and serve whatever is fresh on the farm. So you pretty much just had like 2 options, or they had a list of ingredients and you could say which one you didn't like. And then you just had whatever they had harvested that last week. And it was delicious. And I loved the fact that I didn't exactly know, so no surprise menus was in the chat at some point. I didn't really have to make a choice, which I really enjoyed. And then it was delicious. It was fresh. I connected directly to who had grown it or harvested it. I really love that.
And that's a nice idea too. Yeah, in England you have that in lots of places. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah,
I do feel like there's still a lot of resistance. I mean, from our experience, we still have like a lot of resistance towards like the surprise menu, as it was mentioned before. Some people really love this idea, but I feel maybe it's just Dutch people, I'm not sure, but they tend to be very picky and they want to really like know upfront instead of being surprised. I don't know how everyone else feels about this, or what it's like in other countries or cultures.
I think it depends on my mood.
I've never tried, to be honest, but actually I don't know, I feel like maybe I want to try it now. Yeah, so
maybe I feel like what I do is I would ask if they have a recommendation, and then you have an idea of what it is, but they've also helped me pick. And Naomi hates it, I see. Fair enough.
I don't know.
I really like the surprise menus because often it's something that the chef is proud of making. You know, they really put an effort in. It's something different than what they normally have on the menu. But I've also heard people mention that they think the surprise menu is the produce that's going to go off, that they're trying to get rid of it. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. But I do know some people.
I don't think that necessarily has to be I mean, obviously, you have to, I think in general, like they try to work with like the waste products. At least we try to come up with nice dishes that would otherwise go to waste, like if with the ingredients that you have left over. But I mean, that can also really spark the
but some people, they feel like they're being cheated then. But
they feel like it's a negative thing instead of a positive thing.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but I have heard it in the past, and I was like, yeah, no. I know. It's also a nice way to taste food dishes that you've never had before, you know, with the surprise menu, because otherwise at least I often tend to go to stuff that I've chosen there before that I really liked, you know.
Yeah. No, we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting time. We're really excited. I mean, a week to go, and we'll have all these innovations, all these ideas flooding in. But certainly tonight, it's been great chatting and seeing what just comes up. Because we have been having similar conversations, but tonight there were some new ones, and I think it helps that at least you were all roughly from the same place. So there are some things that you can relate to and that you can build on each other's points as well, which has been great. And I'm just excited to be able to choose again where I eat with my friends and not then be, oh, I'll take a jacket and hope that they have a blanket so I can sit outside. That is also part of it. Yeah. So Xavier, I think you unmuted there.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe if or when you visit Eindhoven, you can organize a tour with Margot for the innovative restaurants or dishes in Eindhoven. I'll sign up. You have at least me joining.
There you go.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anna says there's a little clarification about price when it comes to the surprise menu. At least it's what I've experienced so far. As in the price, yeah, I have the same question. Can you tell us a bit more about what you mean by the price?
Well, my experience with surprise menus is that my wife has to eat gluten-free, and then we always have to talk it over what's going to be, and then it's usually a surprise, and they're always good.
Okay.
That was also the case when about 20 years ago we were vegetarians, and then we sat in on a dinner, and it wasn't very usual then. And then the chef always made something special, of which the meat eaters were jealous. I mean, that's the way it works. If you consult and talk it over, you always get surprises, which are nice, I think.
I also think in that perspective, like a restaurant should always have an alternative, especially when it comes to allergies or something like that.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily have to be on a menu. I think honestly, like a restaurant nowadays can't really get away with not having vegetarian options, or unless it's like an actual meat-based restaurant. But I mean, we have been under fire for not even having like a vegan dish on the menu, which is not even that common. But I think if you have to be able to come up with dishes that serve anyone, maybe not in massive groups, but especially if it's just two people coming in, for example, like that you can't go around that anymore. With everyone having an allergy nowadays, like whether they want it or not.
I think you're right. But the real allergies are not wanted.
No, of course. I was making a comment on the people that are eating gluten-free.
Yeah, that's right.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a challenge in the restaurants now as well, where there's so many diets out there and people want to have every place tailored to it. I imagine it's quite tough to navigate that landscape.
Definitely.
Margot knows it, right? Running a restaurant. I mean, yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I was just wondering because, like, hearing it from you, you run this cafe, and you are like really aware of like restaurants operations. So like hearing it from you is like, of course, different from hearing it from a consumer. So yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Well, we'll keep you updated with what the future of the restaurant industry is like, what happens. Can see if what happens in the Netherlands reflects the rest of the world as well. But yeah, it was really nice being here, having those insights, having those ideas, and being able to be a part of your webinar series, Margot. And hope that we'll follow this up by a surprise menu in person. All of us.
Great.
Yeah.
Did you guys want to discuss anything else? Do you have any more questions to the audience, or you want to start rounding up?
I think I'm good. It's more the other way around. If you guys got questions for us, ask away. I think we've asked plenty of you to get insights into chat. But yeah, if you have any questions for us about Thought for Food, about us, whatever, go for it.
Well, I just wanted to check, is it the website that you posted before where people can keep up with the challenge and like the future developments?
Yeah. Sylvie, can you
Yes,
post that
I
again?
did.
So there's our website. Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead. I mean, I posted it, and yeah, I mean, if you can check out, I'm just gonna repost it and just like share our website. But super welcome everyone here to join our community. We are currently running the TFF challenge, so I will also like kindly ask you if you can like share on your social media. You don't know who is like watching your post, but it could be an innovator in the agri-food space who would like to like get to know Thought for Food and what we do. And we're actually running this challenge now in which like we are welcoming all the innovators in this space. So I'm posting it on the chat, and I'm gonna post our website too.
On our website, you'll also find our events and things.
Yes.
And then the TFF Digital Labs, what's in there now is our online platform. So it's free. You do have to create an account, but then you get to see some of the resources we have. And the challenge, more information about the Resilient Restaurants Challenge, what Cargill is after as well. So they've set some things that they're excited about, some points that they see future in, although they're also very happy to have surprises coming in. And to have innovations that they haven't come up with, but they basically said, well, here's some areas that we're really excited about. And we want to put that out there, that we're looking for solutions and see what comes in. But again, if you have any questions, come our way at any time. It doesn't even have to be today, just come our way and we're happy to share more.
Is it too late to ask a question right now?
Sorry?
Is it too late to ask a question right now?
No, of course, you're very welcome to ask a question.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was listening all the time. Sorry, I saw the Zoom link quite late. That's why I came a bit late on. Otherwise, I was watching on YouTube. During the talk, there is one thing that I didn't see, that's why I was expecting the whole talk to be about, which is about the food waste. And the food waste is most of the time about the demand versus buying, let's say demand versus what is being offered. And based on that one, the people actually provide some supply, the restaurants. And how is this thing being addressed, let's say, currently by the restaurants and by you also? Thank you.
Like Margot can give the restaurant perspective if you want to, but otherwise we can talk from the innovation side a little bit as well.
Maybe you start with the answer, and I see if I can adjust a little bit.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. So it is, of course, it is a huge problem out there, and it is where a lot of food waste happens. And that is in general, so an innovation area that we are seeing a lot of interest in our innovators, but also where we need to solve a lot still. Most of the time it's waste that's being tackled that happens at the consumer's home in the innovations we see, but of course in the restaurants, more and more solutions are coming up there. A lot of what we're seeing is that it starts off with the data capture, right? And so understanding where things are going wrong, so what produce was bought too much of. And there are some innovations out there already. One called Winnow, it's based in the UK, for example, that basically measures, it's a smart bin in essence. So it measures how much food goes into your bin, gives you that data and allows you to then adjust what you buy. And that's been having really great success in restaurants in the UK because it doesn't change how you interact with anything, but it gives you that data. It has a little scale and a little camera, so it can tell what it is you're throwing out, and through that allows you to make smarter decisions. So we're seeing that come up more and more. And then it's a little bit around kind of food storage and also where and what you purchase. So we're seeing that change. Again, it's a whole like adapting to consumer demands and then how you run things. But certainly room for improvement, and certainly where data capture and information comes in hugely. But if you have an idea, throw it out there.
I was wondering, like that is clear, but that is from the restaurant side, and the other side is actually people who are not eating stuff. So do you have an idea about, let's say, how much is because the food, the restaurant is not really able to make a good calculation, and that is the reason of the is it throwing food away, and how much of the if the thrown away part is people can't eat, let's say, what they have ordered, and it needs to be thrown away.
Can I comment on that? I don't know if you guys have a specific answer to this question. Like, as Kazerne, we have this issue on a daily basis. We don't work with massive portions, like, you know, like where you go, for example, to one of the markets in Eindhoven, to the market in Eindhoven, you get like a piece of meat with a lot of fries and like some salad, and like half of the plate will probably be thrown away. We are already like focusing a little bit more on amounts that we assume that people eat, and because we have 2 restaurants, but just focusing on the Italian based restaurant, it's Italian food, so it's pasta and stuff like that, and that's like super I mean, it fills you up a lot more. But even then, like, even if we pay attention to this, like, you get people in that eat half a plate and they're full, and you get people that can eat 3 of those plates and they're not full. So in that way, it's super hard to come up with like something that you know, that adds to everyone. And so we really try to focus on like the quality of the food that should give you enough calories, but then also add to like smaller dishes that people can order on the side, just so that so that people that do want to eat more, they can fill themselves up with these types of things. But it is a super tricky thing to be able to regulate. And then also, like what we mentioned before, you weren't there, I think, but what Xavier mentioned was the idea that people feel bad or negative about restaurants using up leftovers, to say. But I mean, that is a solution to this problem. It's just that people have to be more open-minded about it. So it's like a two-way street, I think. I mean, restaurants have to be more resilient in these types of things, but also the audience needs to be more open to like these types of ideas that restaurants come up with to reduce the waste.
Okay, this all didn't answer my question actually. Maybe I need to be more precise. So the food is thrown away. Do we have data to say that how much of this thrown away food is because the restaurant can't make a good estimation, and how much of this garbage food is because people are not eating?
I mean, we don't do this. Like I said, I mean, I can't give an insight in that. I'm not that much into our restaurant business. I don't know if Marie or Sylvie have some comment on that, on whether there are solutions for this.
No, so unfortunately, I don't know the data on that side. I mean, globally, 1/3 of food is wasted or lost, right? So that is for after it reaches the consumer, but that is everywhere. That is not restaurant specific in any way. And unfortunately, I don't have a more precise answer on that either. It will differ from restaurant to restaurant and also location to location. And it is also one of the points where actually data is lacking a little bit. So that was one of the solution areas where restaurants don't know if it wasn't eaten because it didn't taste good, because they were full, or because they saw that they're actually allergic to part of it or something like that. So that is data that is really hard to capture. And that would be a great solution to have. It's one of the things that we're calling out for. At the same time, if there is that out there, then we'd love to find out. But unfortunately, that is the only answer I can give you in this space, because I just don't.
Okay, clear. Thank you. That was the answer I was looking for. So I understand that the data is not there, right? That is what I should understand. Okay,
Not
great.
that I'm
Thank you.
aware of.
That was all. Yeah, clear.
By the way, Hans shared with us that there is, in fact, this is one of the solutions from the Van der Valk chain, sold by rearing pigs themselves, where most of the waste food ends up. So yeah, great tip. Definitely gonna check that out. And thank you for sharing.
There are several, so there are initiatives like that where you can then feed also insects, right? So whether insects are going to make it onto a plate or not is also a big debate. But there is that as well where you can eat that. But again, then at some point, food safety is coming in. There is constantly new regulation that tells you what you may or may not feed animals as well. In some countries, this is really tightly regulated, and actually what's been on people's plates is not allowed to be then given anywhere else. Who knows? We'll see if Margot has a pig anytime soon. We will know what the regulations are in the Netherlands. Go from there. Another reason for me to come to Eindhoven and see you all.
Exactly.
I would be scared for the pig, to be fair. I don't think one of our chefs is gonna not gonna let it live for a very long time, so that would be bad.
When the surprise menu is really close to home.
Yeah, currently in the Netherlands, they sell the insects in the supermarket, so you can buy those stuff. And they are quite nutritious in that sense and doesn't taste so bad. And I personally see that as a very good option for, let's say, to add to our eating habit.
It is. It's incredibly high in protein, and it uses very little to make it, right? So it's really efficient in terms of its production as well, using very little water, very little food that needs to be fed to them. An incredibly high conversion into protein. The only thing is that it's a shift in our habits, and the habit shifts are really hard to get to. But it is coming up more and more as well over here. So obviously other cultures have it and always had it as part of their diet. What we are seeing what's being accepted more is insect powders. And so it will be in something to increase the protein content, but you get over that ick factor of like, ew, it's a bug, because you don't see it anymore, right? So you're fully aware, they fully disclose what it is, but you don't have that visual cue. And that's one way that it is actually being taken up a little bit more. And that is, I think, one way that we could see it actually reach a lot of people. But that is another trend that is hotly debated, whether it's going to make it really big or whether it's going to continue to just kind of sit there and see. But certainly for the planet, it's a great way to go. Yeah.
Great. Are there any more questions for Marie or Sylvie about this? About anything about food? Just give it a second.
It was a nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
I enjoyed the presentation. I wish you lots of success.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love your comments
Right.
and
You're
your
welcome.
insights.
Then if there's no more questions, I'd like to round everything up. So I really want to thank Marie and Sylvie for giving the presentation and leading this discussion as well. I think everyone got some interesting insights in resilient restaurant businesses, and I think we're all very curious to see how these things are going to develop in the future. Who knows, because Herna might have some bugs on the menu soon. Oh, you might see a house pig here, who knows. But yeah, for now, I want to thank you for everything. Also the people that joined us today. And I hope everyone enjoyed the Innovation Cafe today. I want to point out that next week we will have another Innovation Cafe again. We hope that everyone joins us then. And it will be on something completely different. Studio Van Tot will join us, an Eindhoven-based design studio that are focusing on lighting. So they're going to talk a little bit about the work that they make, also with some lights that are hanging here in Eindhoven. If you want to find out more about this, you can go to ehvinnovationcafe.org. But for now, I want to wish everyone a good evening, and thanks for joining once again. And